It's that time of year again. People have already been asking me in the comments, are you doing the Reddit TBR recommendation video? Yes, here it is. This is my TBR and my recommendations for this year's fantasy Reddit bingo board. Did I complete last year's mostly? I think. I don't know. I got really slumpy, so the last 3 or 4 books I had to finish maybe didn't happen. And we're gonna move on. Clean slate, new Reddit bingo year. And obviously I can't recommend everything for you guys because some of these are very specific to your reading life and TBR, but a lot of these I can provide some recommendations for and tell you what I plan to read, which is also obviously a recommendation. I make all my recommendations for hard mode, but obviously you do not have to do hard mode. You can do whatever you want. The whole goal of the Reddit bingo is to just push yourself outside your comfort zone and maybe find books you wouldn't have read otherwise. And it's a thing that I love. It's actually what got me into the bookish internet. That and Goodreads. These are the 2 things that got me into the bookish internet. The Reddit fantasy subreddit, even though I lurked, I did not have the guts to talk at all. But I did like the fantasy subreddit bingo. And then Goodreads because it was just kind of fun to track things. I like tracking things. All right, so we're going to get into it. We're going to just go through the bingo board, starting with title with a title. Hard mode means it can't have a royal title. For me, I'm going to be reading Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher because I'm just going to be reading a bunch of T. Kingfisher and this one has a title in it. And I've been told Paladin does not count as royal. It's more like champion. So we're going with that. For books that I have read, the one that I saw on the Reddit recommendation list that I'm like, oh yeah, that's the one I want to recommend is The Last Contista. Contista is storyteller. That's the title of storyteller. And this is a phenomenal middle grade. Oh, it's so good. One of the best books I read last year. Definitely, it made it to my top 10 sci-fi books of 2022. Really recommend it, even if you are not a middle grade reader. See me, not really a middle grade reader. I don't read more than a handful of them a year at most. This was outstanding. A 4.5 star in its own right for me. No caveats, no, it's 4.5 stars because it's a middle grade. No, it was a phenomenal, fast-paced, anxiety-inducing, wholesome good time. I had a blast with it. Really recommend. Next up, we have superheroes. I'm going to read Hench, I believe. I think that's the name of it, yeah. I don't know a lot about it, but I've been really curious about it, and so this seemed like the perfect time after years about hearing about this book to put on my list. I might not love it. Oh, that's the thing for me this year with the Reddit bingo. I'm allowing myself to just DNF and count it as done because I never submit them anyways. This is just all for me. So I want to attempt to read Hench, see if I would like it, see if it would be a new favorite. And it counts because it's not DC or Marvel because that's the hard mode for this. For you guys, we've got Onyeka and the Academy of the Sun. This is a middle grade, and it's definitely very X-Men adjacent vibes. We have Renegades. This is your young adult by Marissa Meyer. I really liked this whole trilogy. I thought it was pretty fun. I think it should have been a duology, but it's still a really fun time. And then we have Vicious by V. Schwab. This is definitely more leaning into the anti-hero or villain side of this prompt. But there you go. I got an adult, young adult, and middle grade for you guys. Next up, we have bottom of the TBR. This is the thing I cannot help you with. What did I put down for myself? All right, I put 2, and I think the one that's more likely to happen is Fledgling by Octavia Butler. This has been on my TBR for over a year. I really want to get to it. I actually only have 2, 3 if we include the new releases that Amazon's put out that I don't even think Octavia Butler had a say in having published sort of thing, but I have Bloodchilds and Fledgling and then whatever Amazon released as some novellas that were previously not published. And so Fledgling is one that I've been kind of just it's been over a year and I really should pick it up. The other one is Signal to Noise by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, which has been on my TBR since 2020 as well. So, and that one I think recently got new covers. So that's the bottom of my TBR. I don't know what's the bottom of your TBR. That's between you and however you formulate a TBR. And now we have magical realism or literary fiction, and this is, right? Literary fantasy, not fiction. My mouse covered up the prompt. And the hard mode is they have a list, and it just can't be on that list. This was really hard for me to pick mine because, I don't know, I hadn't read a lot on that list, and I really wanted to read some of it, The House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende. I would love to read that, but it's on that list. So for hard mode, it would be really difficult. But what wasn't on that list is Love Medicine by Louise Erdrich. So yes, I will read a Louise Erdrich for this, of course. So am I following the spirit of the bingo? Maybe not, but I'm going to read that. And for you guys, though, I have read quite a few. If you want to stick more fantasy, magical realism, we got Dark and Deepest Red. Love this, young adult. Although it reads very similarly to Uprooted, Spinning Silver, Baron the Nightingale. It's that type of fantasy. So I I mean, if you think any of those are YA leaning, then this is adult leaning. It's kind of that sort of thing. Inheritance of Orquídea Divina, really great book. Ones that are more literary, like if you wanted something that's less fantasy and more literary, we've got Exit West. Really like this one. I don't know if it even really counts as magical realism, but I always like shouting out this book. It is so good. I actually do think it's very close to magical realism because its speculative element is really... It's magical realism can be a vibe, and this feels like that. And then I have Folklore, which is a Korean historical magical realism literary fantasy that I read a few years ago, following this scientist from Antarctica and her weird relationship with her family as she goes home and things like that. And then there's this ghost, kind of like this girl with this red ribbon and following her around. And yeah, that... If you want something more haunting and literary, Folklore is actually really good. I don't know a lot of people who've read it, so I at least have recommendations for that one. I do not have many for myself that I'm, like, excited about. The next one is Young Adult. This is just something that needed to be released in the last 5 years. There are so many, right? But I guess the one I'm just going to shout because it's the one I always shout. There'll be two. Each of Us a Desert. Yes. Probably could also work for magical realism, maybe. I always call it fantasy dystopia futurism. Like, it's more like that. But I love it. And then, of course, Catfishing on Catnet. Fantastic. Highly recommend. So both of those are within the 5-year period. I love them. So if you are like me and not someone who reads a lot of young adult, but think you have similar young adult taste to mine, you should try those out. The next prompt are Mundane Jobs. And I think the hard mode is just not on Earth. For you guys, my recommendation would be Legends and Lattes. We're just running a coffee shop. It's great. Another one is Phoenix Extravagant. Jebby's just a painter. And I don't think that's our world. It's inspired a lot by our world, but it's not. I just realized I put a book down for this that I think I already have for another slot, so this one might be open for me. I did see some books that I potentially could like, but feel free to recommend me books for this slot. I will fix this on my spreadsheet, because right now I have a duplicate, and that doesn't work. But I'll talk about the other book later, because I definitely want to use the book I had for this for a different slot. I just didn't catch that I duplicated it by accident. The next one is published in the aughts, or the O's, or I think we call it the aughts. I don't know when we decided what we were calling 2000 to 2009, but anyways, that range is when the book needs to be published, and it can't be in like the top 30 of the fantasy books list on Reddit or something like that. For you guys, I got Strange Beasts of China and Vita Nostra. I love both of these. Strange Beasts of China, I did a whole book discussion with Tammy at Tammy Tries to Read, so you can see that. I love that. Might also work for magical realism. Some people compare it to that. I think of it more as like noir, like short story collection, noir, slice of life. I don't know. I don't get the magical realism as much, but again, it's more of a vibe sometimes. Like it has... I feel bad. Magical realism has a long history and really important context and roots, but I feel like as a community, we use the word very flippantly, and I don't know how to use it to help people find the book that they want in that category. Regardless, the next one's Vita Nostra, and this is a time. This is confusing. Do not read it if you want answers. If you want answers, you will not find answers here, and if you want a truly good dark academia, I love it. It's my favorite dark academia. Granted, I'm not like a big prolific reader in that subgenre, but oof, I love it. So those are the two I'd recommend. For myself, what did I put down for myself that I'm really excited about? I think it's Kushiel's Dart. That's the one I'm most likely to read. I have a couple others like Ida and Perito Street Station, but Kushiel's Dart is the one that like it's on my series to start this year, and it's one of the older, it's not even that old, but it's one of the backlist fantasy titles that I haven't gotten to yet that I really want to try out. We're now going into Angels and Demons. This was so hard for me, because the obvious answer for hard mode, because the character has to be an angel or a demon, the protagonist, is Good Omens. So there you go. If you haven't read Good Omens, this is the obvious recommendation. It is very fun. If you like Terry Pratchett's voice, you will like this story, because it's definitely more his voice than Gaiman's voice. Gaiman provides all the gross ideas. That's my theory. All the gross ideas are Gaiman's. Because there is some imagery in here that I'm like, oh, that's not Pratchett, I don't think. Granted, I've only read a handful of Pratchett. And a handful of Gaiman. Didn't realize, I think I've actually read an equal number by both authors. But that's what I'll recommend to you guys. For me, so I am going with The Angels Left the Old Country. This was recommended in my Discord. I don't know a lot about it. I think it's indigenous. I know the main character is supposed to be, I don't actually even know, angel or demon. I truly was just like, I need a book for this. someone give it to me. I also have been asking some friends for like some romances, because I know I have to believe there are some romances out there with angels and demons, and I have a list of that in case I want to go that route. But this is my current like stand-in, because I like making a TBR just to like have a stand-in. I fully expect to do other things as I discover stuff in books that work that I just didn't know about. All right, next up are 5 short stories. Okay, I do a short story video every year. Those are my recommendations. But I guess if you needed me to tell you right now, Angela, what short stories should I read? My favorite from last year is The Paper Menagerie, like that short story collection. So there you go. My favorite anthology of last year was The Terraformers. I think that's what it was called, or Terraforms. I don't know. Those are my 2 just off the top of my head recommendations. But if you want more, I'll link the most recent video down below, which should have links to the other videos. Every year I do that video. Every year it doesn't perform well, but regardless, they exist for your viewing pleasure. And for me, I don't know. I mean, right now I'm in the middle of a short story collection, Universal Love, so it's probably going to be that, because that'll be the first short story collection I've finished since starting this challenge. I read about like 8 to 10 a year, so this is not a hard prompt for me normally. Next up is horror. And so for me, I'm going to read Jawbone. This is on my Latin Works TBR as well, so this works well for me here. And then for you guys, I'm just going to list the ones that I've read recently that I really like. Lone Woman and House with Good Bones. I'd also recommend Build Your House Around My Body. Really like that one. And, of course, Sorrowland by River Solomon. You know, those are all, because I think the hard mode for this was just not H.P. Lovecraft or Stephen King, which, funnily enough, I think those are my least read in the horror genre, so I don't even have a lot of recommendations for the easy mode, per se. And now we get into self-published or indie publisher. They do have a really good list of all their indie publishers that have AMAs for the hard mode. I'm going to be picking from Neon Hemlock. I don't know specifically which one. They have this speculative short story anthology by Irish authors that I'm actually really interested in. They have a bunch of novellas that always interest me, so maybe something from Neon Hemlock for me. For you guys, there was one from an indie publisher, Driftwood by Marie Brennan. I don't know if you know I love this book, but this one would count. This would count. And then for indie, like self-published, The Sword in the Street. I was so sad that it still has less than 100 ratings, but it counts. I really liked this story. And I really liked Once Stolen. Although Once Stolen is at 99 ratings as of me filming this, so this one might not count by the time you're seeing that. So those are some of my recommendations for that, since that's always a hard square, but I like that it's there as the challenge, you know, to make you look for things that are not always shoved in your face by traditional publishing. I think it's really good. Our next one is set in the Middle East. So recommendations obviously must include City of Brass, because that's kind of one of our standard ones in the fantasy community, but I would also like to push the Dreamblood duology by N.K. Jemisin, which is heavily inspired by Egypt. So yeah, I recommend that. For me, I think mine is going to be The Stardust Thief, because I still have it on my shelf. I still need to try it out. The sequel comes out this year. Again, this is kind of like an earlier pick where it's like, if I'm not liking it though, I'm going to count a DNF as it working for this square. Like, I'm going to do it. Published in 2023 is the next one, and this is usually, the hard mode is a debut author. So for me, I'm going to put The Sun in the Void, and that's also going to be my recommendation to you to try out because it's a debut author. And so, yeah. Here we go, 2023 release debut. I also am just really bad at keeping up with who's a debut author and who's not. I'm just not good at it. All right, and then Multiverse or Alternate Realities. I've actually already read this book. Secret Project number 2 counts for this. I am only calling it that because I cannot remember the name of this book, but it works. So I've already read it. We're good. Because I think the hard mode is literally do not walk through doors. They do not walk through doors. So we're good there. For you guys, The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. Oh my goodness, I love this book. I love it so much. It's always behind me on the shelf. You know I love it because it's always in frame. You need to read this. You need to read this book. It's so good. I have a review for it in the channel, so if you want to know more of my thoughts, like, it was back when I had energy to, like, film 4 times a week, which how did past Angela do that? I'll never know. So, we're now into Person of Color Author, and this one's prompt needs to be set in a future sci-fi world, so I have so many recommendations for this. I actually think I have an entire recommendation video with stuff like this. But you want Xenogenesis by Octavia Butler. Nnedi Okorafor's novella Noir works really well. Nine Fox Gambit by Yoon Ha Lee. Infomocracy by Malka Older. I could go on. There are so many. Like I said, basically if you look at any of my favorites lists, you will find stuff that work for this, especially sci-fi. I've got like 3 or 4 sci-fi recommendation videos, and you'll definitely find something in one of those if any of these are not like your cup of tea. And within this list, like, we got aliens, we got future tech, we've got space opera, we got government systems being weird, so like, you know, I think there's some good variety in those 4 that I just shouted out. But if you need more, there's definitely more on this channel for you to find out about. The next one's book club or read-along book. Again, this is more to your discretion. They have links and things like that. Novella that is not published by Tor.com. And what can we offer you tonight? Neon Hemlock, phenomenal. I love this novella. It won the Nebula the year it came out, and I agree. I agree that it should have won. For me, I think I will be reading, let's see, what did I put down? It's actually probably maybe something else. Oh, no. Haha. I think this is still coming out this year, and so I'm going to read it. This is Rose/House by Arcady Martin. This is from Subterranean Press, and I mean, I love the Texcalan duology, and this is not set in that world, but I've been itching to read more by Arcady Martin. So, it's happening. But there are other things, specifically Neon Hemlock has a lot of novellas that are on my radar that I would love to read. All right, and now Mythical Beasts. And I think the hard mode is just not dragon or dragon adjacent. So my recommendation, specifically, actually I have to flip my page, but Bone Shard Daughter. Yeah, I think that works really well. If you want something that has like mermaids in it, the deep, but I would definitely go with Bone Shard Daughter. That definitely counts. For me, what did I put down for me? Oh, I just put down the author, Ilona Andrews, because I think that those creatures exist in her books that are not dragons, and I wanted to start one of her long, ongoing series, maybe like a Kate Daniels. I think Kate Daniels is the one that everyone loves, right? Like, I know the first book is rough, or whatever. Like, basically every time people recommend urban fantasy series, like, you gotta get through the first book. I know very few, and it's very much like TV, right? Like when you show someone one of these long-running TV shows that you love, it's like, oh, the first season's a little rough. Like, I kind of like that. I'm not gonna lie. It's very familiar to me. All right, and now Elemental Magic. So this is where I messed up, where I had the Daughters of Izdahar for a different slot. I had it because there's a bookshop keeper in this book, so that's like a mundane job. But it's going here because it has elemental magic, and I needed something with elemental magic because I don't know many other books I want to read right now with elemental magic, and this has it. But for elemental magic, for you guys, The Sword of Kaigen, if you've somehow not read it off my recommendation yet, here it is. Yes. And then, of course, The Queen of Blood and any of the books in the Queens of Renthia series is also very tied to elemental magic. So all of those are winners. We now have, what is it? Myths and Retellings, and the hard mode is not Greek, I think. I think Norse is a lot. Yeah, not Greek or Roman. I'm going to recommend Kaikei. I really like this book from last year. I have a review for it. I would probably read Kaikei for this slot if I hadn't already read it. As it stands, though, I have a bunch of books that I might read. If anyone has any experience with any of these, feel free to chime in. I've got The Witch's Heart, which I might read. I think this is Norse. I have The Crane Husband, which I don't remember what country in Asia, but I think it's Asian mythology. And then there's a Catherine M. Valente called Deathless, which I think is Eastern European mythology. And I don't know which one of those I'll read. I don't know which one might work for me. Leaning towards the Catherine M. Valente because I've been wanting to read more of her stuff, but I do know this one's a little controversial. Like, people are kind of just controversial about Catherine M. Valente's writing style all around, so we'll see. All right, we're getting near the end. We have queer norm setting. So, for both you guys and me, we're just doing the same thing. It's The Rook and the Rose. It's The Rook and the Rose. If you haven't read The Rook and the Rose yet, you should pick it up. I'm going to be reading the third book in that series this year. I'm excited. There's a lot of tension, there's a lot of stakes, there's a lot of prejudice in this book, but none of it has to do with your sexual orientation or your gender identity. That's all fine. It's great. So, very queer norm, just extremely normalized, and really fun series. I cannot wait for the third book. I'm already starting to, think about my reread this summer. It's gonna be so good. I only wish, it would take longer, right? But I think of it as such a winter series. I kind of wish the third book was coming out in, December, even though that would take longer, so I could reread in the winter, because that's just how I think about it. But I'm not actually that much of a seasonal reader, so it'll be fine. All right, coastal or island setting and seafaring needs to be a major part of it. Oh, did I get hard mode for another one? Okay, yeah. The Rook and Rose works for hard mode. I think the hard mode is just not a futuristic setting, takes place in a time akin to ours in the past, or in a fantasy world that has no science fiction elements, so we good for that one. But coastal or island setting needs to have seafaring. So my recommendation for you all is the Live Ship Trader series, because I love it. I love it always. I think about it a lot. Every time people are reading it, I am just reminded of my time reading it. The good, the bad, the ugly. I just really like that series. So yeah, that one definitely works. I think to some extent the Bone Shard Daughter might work. Even though I don't think there's as much seafaring. You're on boats, but maybe not as often as you would maybe want to be for the hard mode for this prompt. It's to your discretion. And then for me, I'm going to read the new Shannon Chakraborty, which is Amina Al-Sarafi The Adventures of... it's a long title. Anytime a title is over three words, I struggle. I struggle a lot. But this one. That's the one I'm going to be reading for this. The next prompt was really hard. This is Druids. And I think the hard mode is like not the Iron Druid Chronicles or something, like, so the specific book. And the prompt does say it can be a traditional druid, like in Celtic mythology and stuff like that, or it could be someone who uses nature magic. So for that reason, my recommendation is The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri, because nature magic is a huge part of this for one of our characters and a whole sect of people. And I love this book, so it's pretty easy to recommend. So that's my recommendation. For me, I'm potentially reading Dreamer's Pool, which is by an author that I've been meaning to read from for a long time anyways, and I saw it on the recommendation thread. I don't know a lot about it, but this author, I think it's Juliette Marillier, if I'm saying that right. Watch it be a completely different author. But that's who I thought wrote this book, and people love her. And I haven't read anything by her yet, so it's another one of those like backlist authors that I'm just like filling in my internal knowledge gaps. And now we're on to the last two. Featuring robots. I don't have a lot of good recommendations for this for the hard mode where the protagonist is a robot. Like, I tried to think of something, and the one I could think of is Murderbot, which is the obvious one, but Murderbot. And it's one I could read for myself too, but I tried not to. I tried to put something else. So I might still read a Murderbot because I haven't continued that series. But someone mentioned A Closed and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers would count. Which I thought would be more AI than robot, but maybe it's like a blending of the two, because I actually don't know where the AI's construct is. I can't remember. It's been so many years since I've read A Long Way to a Far Angry Planet. See, the titles that long, they're just hard for me to like hold on to. And I mean, I've never been against reading its companion sequel, but I just haven't. So maybe this would be the prompt to push me to do that, because I just haven't. But I guess let me know if it would count for this prompt, because if it doesn't, I'll just read a Murderbot, because I truly, like, I've been struggling to find one, unless you personally are like, Angela, you would really like this book. But remember, it has to have a robot as the protagonist. And then the last one is just sequel, and the hard mode is be book 3 or higher. So obviously this is more to your personal reading life. I don't know what series you're in the middle of, but if you're looking to start a series that has, more than 3 books in it, let me give you A Chorus of Dragons, because it's phenomenal. It's so good, and I haven't gushed about it on this list yet, so yeah. For me, I don't know. I'm going to read so many things that are books 3 or 4 or 5. I'll probably put anything. Maybe if I was saying the first one that'll probably be done is The Bone Shard War. Probably. That might be the first book 3 plus that I get to. But that said, I just started the Vorkosigan saga, and the chances of me reading most of that this year are pretty high if I keep having as good a time with that as I did the first book. So we'll see. I just read a lot of series, though. I'm about to read the 7th book in a Malazan series soon. Like, something will go here. It'll be fine. But that is the recommendation list / my tentative TBR. Feel free to leave any other recommendations down below, or come to my Discord where we have a book recommendations list. If you wanted to start this yourself, this is your first time hearing about it, I do have links to the Reddit threads that I find useful, like where I use my spreadsheet and their recommendation Reddit list, and then also just their announcement post. So feel free to look at that, and there is a high probability that maybe I didn't say any of these prompts perfectly. That definitely happened last year, so just know that. I considered this all just a fun challenge, so I might not be perfect about it, but if you would like perfection for yourself, feel free to go check out the threads. And yeah, if you want to leave an emoji, leave something that makes you think of a bingo board, like, numbers or chart. I don't know. I don't ever know what emojis there are. Or you could just leave, like, balloons, because I just like balloons. Yeah, so balloons are something that makes you think of bingo. And otherwise, if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.